So you've either just gotten into video editing or maybe you're switching from Adobe or another video editor. Regardless, DaVinci was absolutely the correct choice. In this video, I'll get you started within DaVinci in less than 15 minutes. So before I get into the tutorial, make sure obviously you have DaVinci downloaded, whether that be the free version or the studio version. Though I must note, the free version has almost everything most editors will need. I'd say the average editor is going to be completely fine with bare DaVinci. But the big difference between DaVinci and Adobe pricing wise, say you do want to pay for the studio version of DaVinci, it's a one-time payment for a perpetual license. So no, reoccurring fees like Adobe with the monthly payments, none of that. You pay one time, you get the application for life and free updates forever. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, obviously, you're going to want to go ahead and open up Davinci Resolve. So you go ahead, click, untitled project to open a project up. Okay, so now that we have a project open up, I kind of just want to go over just the basic GUI. It's kind of overwhelming. There's a lot going on. Just take some deep breaths. Remember, everything is confusing when you're first learning something. You will figure it out. Not to mention, almost 90% of these things, for the average user, you're just not going to use. So just don't let it overwhelm you. So first, I want to go over these main sections of the application that are all listed down here. So first, you have the media page. This is kind of where you can just see all your media pool. You can manage your clips and organize them. And I don't find myself using this page all that often. As you will see in a minute, the media pool is accessible within other pages. But there's a time and place for everything. Moving on, you have the cut page. Again, I also don't really necessarily use this page as often. This is where you can easily cut clips up. And then moving on to the edit page. This is where you're going to be spending 90% of your time. This is where you're going to be able to drag clips onto your timeline, organize them, make your edits, etc. And then moving on, we got the Fusion page, which allows for the usage of nodes and more intricate edits. We also have the color page. This is obviously where you're going to do all your coloring. Davinci Resolve is very well known for its ability to color. Its color page is extraordinary. So if you are coming over from Adobe, this is probably one of the big reasons as to why you are. The color is just, it's unbeatable. It's one of the best in the industry. Moving on again, we've got the Fairlight tab. This is where you can mess with all your audio. You can add audio effects, everything you ever would need to do with editing audio is all going to be within this one page. And then the final and last page is the Deliver page. This is where you're going to be exporting all your videos, changing your export settings, etc. So now that I've gone over and explained, the basic sections of the application, I would like to go ahead and open up the settings quickly. This is where you're going to be able to change your timeline resolution, your frame rate, things of that nature. Personally, I like to shoot in 4K, so I would change my timeline resolution to 3840, 2160 Ultra HD. If you're going to be using, social media content or vertical content, you can go ahead and click this box right here and it'll change it to vertical. And then as a beginner, personally, I wouldn't change any of the other settings other than your proxy media format. I would go ahead and change that to H.264 from whatever the default is. If you don't know what proxy media is, it's basically just a way to optimize your timeline so that everything runs more smoothly. If you guys would like more clarity or are interested in learning more about this, let me know in the comments below and I'll make a video dedicated to proxy medias and optimizing your timeline for good workflow. So now that you've gone ahead and made your changes within the settings, you're going to want to make sure you click the save button. And now we're ready to start dragging in our clips. So if you remember, there is a media page within DaVinci. You can absolutely use this page to organize your media. However, personally, I like to just jump straight into the edit page and go ahead, grab my clips, and then drag them right into this media pool built into the edit page. Now that they're in the media pool, you can go ahead and hover over it or click on it. Go ahead, pan through your footage, check it out, things like that. You can also hold and drag to bring it directly onto your timeline. This is where you throw your clips on, you organize them, you add edits, you add transitions, audio effects, etc. You can change which part of the video is shown in the viewer by simply grabbing the playhead and just dragging it around. You can do the same thing from up here. There is this little bar up here at the top of your timeline. It's going to have all of your different tools, your modes, settings, etc. that are going to directly affect your timeline. For example, you can grab your blade tool and you can add cuts into your clips, grab your pointer tool to drag around. And then these two right here are extremely important. Please, if you're going to listen to anything in this video, listen to this. These two buttons are snapping mode and linked. Okay. So assuming the link button's already on, if you were to click it and turn it off, it would unlink your clips from the audio, which means you can now See how this timer pops up? This is telling me how off-centered my clip is from the matching audio. So basically, this link button allows you to unlink clips or link them back together, so that you can either move them around freely or while they're attached together. Another important thing to keep in mind when using the link selection is that when clips are linked, when you cut them, it's going to cut both the audio and video. Whereas if you deactivate the link, it's going to cut only the audio or only the video. The snapping button changes the way in which clips move around on the timeline. So with the snapping button activated, if you were to drag a clip towards another one, before you reached it, it would automatically snap it to the end of the previous clip, which is useful in lots of scenarios, sometimes not so much. So if you want more precise movement with the clip, you're going to want to turn the magnet off. Otherwise, you're going to get really frustrated really quickly because you're going to find that you can't move your clips around the way that you want to. Now with the magnet deactivated, I can move my clip around seamlessly and it won't snap or attach to anything. And I can even eat into my other clip now. While using the timeline, you can also change the size that the video and audio clips appear on the timeline. You can achieve this by simply hovering your mouse in between a track and then holding and dragging up or down. There's other aspects of the edit page that are able to be adjusted, such as the size of the timeline itself, the size of the viewer, which you can adjust using your mouse wheel, as well as the sizes of the different panels that appear on the screen. Also, while we're looking at it, I want to point out this right here. This is the viewer. So this is what's going to show you, this is how you're going to see your footage. But don't get confused because it can show you both what's on your timeline and what's in your media pool. You're going to have to click on the timeline first to view what's on your timeline, and you're going to have to click on your clips to see the clips. However, there is also a dual viewer mode. So if you click this, you can view your clips as well as what's on the timeline simultaneously. This can be useful, but I think for most cases, just having one viewer is more effective. Allows you to see more of your screen. So that way, once you do get to the color and the edits, you can see more detail and you can see what you're working with better. So now let's say that you want to trim or cut a clip that is currently on your timeline. So first, you're going to need to switch from selection mode to blade mode, which you can either do by clicking the blade or B on your keyboard. Now, to make a direct cut, you're going to find a spot on your clip that you want to make the cut, and it's as simple as clicking it. Now, keep in mind, the link button is going to affect your cuts. So if the link button is active, it's going to cut both the audio and the video footage. So if you don't want that to happen, you can turn the link button off and then cut only the video or the audio. You can also simply trim or extend clips by simply hovering your mouse over the edge of the beginning or end of a clip and dragging forward or backwards. So moving on, maybe you want to add some music or some sound effects. So how would you go about doing that? Well, in the same way that you dragged your video clips in, you can simply drag your audio clips. So you would take it, you would drag it into the folder. You can then pan through your audio and access it just like you could a video clip. You can also just drag a clip onto the timeline and it'll automatically add it to your media pool. Another important aspect of audio is if you want to make tweaks such as volume adjustments or even just add, transition fades or whatever it may be. And first, if you're working with audio, you're going to want to make sure the waveforms are large so you can see what you're working with. So you'll go ahead and expand whatever track you're focusing on. And now that we're zoomed in a bit more, you can now see this thin white line that kind of just goes across the entirety of the audio clip. This is going to be how you adjust the decibel value of your audio. So you're going to click and hold and then either move your mouse up to increase or down to decrease the decibels. And if you're adding ambient music to, say, a narrational video, you're not going to want to have it up all the way. I would recommend putting it to about -20 decibels, maybe even -25, just so that it's nice and faint and that your vocals don't get drowned out. You can also add fades to your audio. So say you want to fade your music in, you can grab this little marker right up in the upper left-hand or right-hand corner of an audio track, and you can just hold and drag it out. And this is going to create a natural fade. You can grab this little ball right here and even make the fade a little more round or steep. Another huge aspect of Davinci and something that you're going to be using quite frequently is Davinci's Toolbox. The Toolbox is basically just a toolbox that contains all of Davinci Resolve's assets, transitions, titles, OpenFX, filters, things of that nature. Something within the toolbox that most people are going to be using is the text and title features. This is where you're going to be able to use text so you can, make subtitles or video titles or whatever the case may be. So once you place a text node onto your timeline, the way in which you can adjust the settings and the content of the text node itself is going to be located on the right side of the screen within the Inspector tab. Within this Inspector tab, you're going to be able to, change what the text displays, change fonts, font face, color, size, tracking, anything you could think of that has to do with text and editing. However, if you would like to use a animated text or title and, not do it manually, Davinci actually has pre-downloaded title assets that you can use by looking over in the toolbox again and going into the title section and just scrolling down. We can see all of these different templates, and we can even preview them by scrolling our mouse along from left to right, and we can see the animation take place. You would drag this onto your timeline just as you would a regular text node, and voila, you now have animated text within your video. So the next tab would be Fusion. I'm not going to cover this section in the video today. Fusion is for more advanced users. It's very complicated, but something I'm not opposed to making a video about. So if you would like to learn more, comment down below and I'll try to make a video focusing solely on how to use Fusion. So next up is the color page. This is what Davinci Resolve is known for. Its color correction software is extremely powerful. And as you can see, it's pretty intimidating as well. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different controls. And to be quite frank, you can do a lot with the color page. A lot. There's 100% too much to put into one video. So first of all, as a new user, I would recommend keeping things simple, but there are a few things I would recommend tweaking. Some of the more common settings that I believe you are going to have to use is the temperature. Obviously, sometimes either your shot's a little too blue, a little too orange. You can go ahead and adjust the temperature to fix that. Contrast, you can add some contrast. You can adjust your shadows to allow for more light. You can mess with the highlights to change the brights in your image, such as the clouds in this one. And then especially with very little education on color wheels and how to color, I think the color boost is a very handy tool for newer editors. If your video is just lacking that little bit of color, you can go ahead and use the color boost. You can also go ahead and click this tab right here, which will take you to a graph. And you can go ahead and give yourself 3 points. This is typically what I do. You can mess with your lows, add some contrast. You can mess with your mids. So bring some brightness up into the mids of your picture, and then you can mess with your highlights. Again, that's as far as I would go if you're new to Davinci. Keep things simple. When you're new and you're trying to do a lot, that's how you make things look muddy and they end up looking worse than they would have raw. So just keep things simple and focus on the settings that I just pointed out. Next, we have the audio page or Fairlight page. Again, this is also very complicated. I'm not going to touch too much into it in this video. However, just so you guys have an overview of the types of things that you can do. You can add vocal effects. You can add an EQ. You can send buses. Again, a lot of this I would have to explain in another video. If you would like to learn more about the Fairlight page within Resolve, comment down below and I'll make a video dedicated to it. And finally, we have the deliver page. This is where you're going to be exporting your video out of Davinci. First things first, you're going to want to make sure you have your in point and your out point selected correctly. Sometimes you'll have clips, that you don't want included within the final render. So you're just going to want to make sure that you have everything that you want rendered within the in and the out marker. In order to set an in and out point, you're going to navigate to the beginning of your video. You're going to click I on the keyboard. You're going to navigate to the end of your video and you're going to click O on the keyboard. Likewise, you can also right click anywhere on the timeline to mark in or mark out. And then finally, you'll look to the left side of the screen. You'll select your render template. If you're not sure, I recommend just putting H.264. You'll want to go ahead and name your file. Ensure that the format you have selected is what you would like. And then this one's very important. You're going to want to click your resolution and then select your desired resolution. Otherwise, you're going to export your video and it's going to be a quality that you weren't expecting. You'll also want to select your frame rate, browse for a download location, select your download location, save, add to render queue, then you would select render all. It would then download the video to the specified location that you have given it, and you will have officially exported your first ever Davinci Resolve video. And there you go. That is my basic tutorial on Davinci Resolve. If you think there's anything that I should have included in this video, feel free to ask questions in the comments below, or even give video requests. I'm more than open to making a video on any questions you guys have.